Okay, so today we're going to continue our 5-5 notes. So the first question that we have is, you can use the formula F equals 9/5 times C plus 32 to convert a temperature in degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit. And they want us to complete the table below. So we have degrees Celsius to begin with. So these are all going to be equal to C in our equation. So for the first one, we have, I'm just going to write this, if I have F equals 9/5 C plus 32, I'm going to take my -10 and plug it in for C. So I have 9/5 times -10, but I'm going to write that as -10 over 1, and then plus 32. So now I just want to simplify this out. So I want to see, first I have multiplication here, and then I have addition here. So I want to start by doing my multiplication, so I'm following order of operations. I have a positive times a negative, so my answer is going to be negative. And then I know that I can simplify out my 5 and my 10 to make my 5 and 1, and this will become a -2. And then I can go ahead and see it. Well, I know I have 1s on the bottom, so my answer is going to be a whole number. And then I have 9 times -2, which will give me -18. Then I want to bring down my plus 32. And then to solve that, I have a negative and I have a positive. So I have different signs, so I'm going to find the difference. So if I do 32 minus 18, I get 14. And then I have to see who has more, the negatives or the positives, and the positives have more. So my answer will be positive 14. Now I want to do the same thing for my -40. So I started off with F equals 9/5 times C plus 32. So now I'm going to have 9/5 times -40, but since I'm talking about fractions, I'm going to make that a -40 over 1. Plus 32. Again, I have to do my multiplication first. I have a negative times a positive, so my answer will be negative. I can simplify here to make this a 1 and this a -8. And then I see that I have 1s on the bottom again, so it's going to be a whole number. And then I have 9 times 8, which will give me 72. And again, that's going to be negative because I have 1 negative when I'm multiplying. Bring down my plus 32. I have different signs, so I'm going to find the difference. So 72 minus 32 gives me 40, and then I have to see who has more. I have 72 negatives, and I have 32 positives, so I have more negatives, so my answer will be -40. Next one, and this is in your book, you can use the formula C equals 5/9 times F minus 32 in parentheses to convert a temperature given in degrees Fahrenheit to degrees Celsius. Convert the temperature shown on the thermometer to degrees Celsius. So here this is going to be equal to our degrees Fahrenheit, and we have 5 there. So on this one I have 5/9 times the quantity. That's what we say when we have stuff in parentheses. Instead of F, I'm going to write 5 minus 32. Now again, I'm going to follow my order of operations here. So I have 5/9, and you could distribute here if you wanted. And then I have a 5 minus 32. And remember, that's the same as 5 plus -32. So my answer here, I have more negatives, and then they have different signs, so I want to find the difference. 32 minus 5 gives me -27, and I'm going to write that over 1 since I'm dealing with fractions. So I have a negative times a positive, so my answer is going to be negative, and then I can simplify out my 9 to be a 1 and my -27 to be a -3. And then when I multiply this, I have 5 times a -3, which gives me -15. And that will be my answer. Now we're back on our notes page for this part. We're going to talk about complex fractions, and basically that's just either a fraction over a fraction, or a fraction over a whole number, or a whole number over a fraction. So basically you're going to have a main fraction bar, which is talking about the difference in the two numbers, but you could have a fraction on the top or the bottom. Now notice I made mine really exaggerated, so that way you can tell which one is kind of the main fraction bar. Now, what's really nice about these is they look super complicated, and we saw these with unit rates. They look complicated, but really you can just rewrite them as a division problem. So like this one you could rewrite as -3/4, just the top number, and then this is the difference, so that means just divided by the bottom number, or divided by 10. So that complex fraction that we're looking at in that division problem are the same thing. So we're going to look at some problems that have to do with complex fractions. The first one says, a lock is a chamber used to move a boat from one water level to another along a river. After a boat enters a lock, the water inside the lock drains out, lowering the boat to the new level. So this says the water level drops 3 feet every 2.5 minutes at a rate of -3 feet over 2.5 minutes. They want us to rewrite the complex fraction of -3, this is pretty late, -3 over 2.5 as a division expression, and then simplify, and then we need to say what our answer means. So this is my main division line, so I can rewrite this as -3 divided by 2.5. Now let's go ahead and write this so that we can solve it. So I'm going to rewrite this as -3 over 1 divided by, and then I want to change this into a mixed number. So 2 times 2 gives me 4 plus 1 is 5/2. Now I have to rewrite it as multiplication, so -3 over 1 times 2 over 5. I have one negative, so my answer is going to be negative. 3 times 2 gives me 6. 1 times 5 gives me 5. Now when we did this, we had our feet on the top, so this would be feet per minute, because remember that tells us we had feet on top of minutes, so that'd be feet per minute. Now let's rewrite this as a mixed number. That's the same as -1 and 1/5 feet per minute. So that means every minute it's going to go down 1 1/5 feet. Now we're back in our books. This one says, what is the simplified form of a complex fraction -5/6 divided by, or -5/6, excuse me, over 15/2? And we can rewrite this, as you could tell I just kind of went into that, -5/6 divided by, because this is our main fraction line, 15/2. And then we just simplify it out, so I have -5/6 times, I'm going to flip or do the reciprocal of my second one, times 2/5, and then I want to see if I can simplify, which I can all over the place. So this will be a 3, that becomes a 1. I can divide both of these by 5, so I have a 1 and a 3. I have one negative, so my answer is going to be negative. 1 times 1 gives me 1, 3 times 3 gives me 9. So my answer here would be -1/9. Then we have one more to talk about. A fraction bar is a grouping symbol as well as a division symbol. In the expression 2 plus 4 over 3, the fraction bar groups 2 plus 4 together just like parentheses would, to indicate that you add 2 and 4 before you divide 3. And then it shows you how you could write this as 2 plus 4 in parentheses divided by 3. So we want to use that idea to simplify out this complex fraction where we have -5/6 over 1/3 minus 1. So if I rewrite that, that's the same as -5/6 divided by, in parentheses, 1/3 minus 1. So the first thing we want to do is do our parentheses. So I have -5/6 divided by 1/3 minus 1, that's going to be -2/3. And now I can rewrite this as a multiplication problem. I only have one operation left, so 5/6 times -3/2. Simplify where we can, which we can. We're going to make the 6/2, excuse me, and the 3/1. And then I have a negative times a negative, so my answer will be positive. 5 times 1 gives me 5. And then I have 2 times 2 gives me 4, and I can rewrite that as 1 1/4. So this complex expression is the same as 1 1/4.